In this video, we are solving equations that will require us to take 2 or more steps. It's easiest just to see a few examples, so let's start with the first one. We're going to begin with 5x minus 3, and that equals 19. Now, there are different ways I can go about solving this, but the best way is to add 3 to both sides. By doing this, I end up with 5x on the left-hand side. Remember, if I've got 5x minus 3 and then add 3, this effectively undoes this. So we're just left with 5x. And on the right-hand side, I would get 22. What I need to do next is divide the left-hand side by 5 and the right-hand side by 5. And 5x divided by 5 is just x. That was the whole point of dividing by 5. And 22 divided by 5 is just 22 over 5. Or I can call it 4 2/5, or 4.4. So there we have our solution for A. Now, if you didn't want to do this first, you could have done it another way. You just have to take care with what you do. So I could do this again. 5x minus 3 equals 19. You might think, I'm trying to isolate this x, so I want to divide by 5. Well, that is fine, but what you need to do is divide the whole expression by 5. So this is dividing the left-hand side by 5, and this is dividing the right-hand side by 5. And by doing this, you've actually got 5x minus 3 all divided by 5. And we can do that in parts. 5x divided by 5 is just x. We're subtracting 3 divided by 5, which is the same as subtracting 3/5. And the right-hand side here is just 19 over 5. Now, what we need to do is add 3/5 to both sides. If we add 3/5 here and add 3/5 here, you'll see that we get the same answer. We get x equals 22 over 5. So there is our solution. Let's move on to question B. With question B, don't be fooled by the fact that the x is on the right-hand side now. We still try and follow the same idea. We're trying to isolate the x. Now, just like in question A, there's more than one way of doing this, but I would recommend that the best way would be to start off by subtracting 8. If you do that on the left and the right, you get -1 over here on the left and 3x on the right. The next step would be dividing by 3. If you do that, you get x on the right and -1/3 on the left. So we found that x equals -1/3. That's our solution. Let's move on to part C. This time we're saying that 2 equals x minus 6 over 3. Now, in general, if you've got a denominator in a fraction in an equation, you might find those really annoying, but fortunately there's an easy way to get rid of them. Remember what this means. This means divided by. So we've got x minus 6 divided by 3. The inverse of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. So if I multiply this by 3, I'm going to get rid of that denominator. But that means I also have to multiply the left-hand side by 3. And what that means is that I get 6 on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, I've got x minus 6 divided by 3, but being multiplied by 3. So that's just x minus 6. Now, I just need to add 6 to both sides. And that gives me 12 on the left and x on the right. So x equals 12. Let's move on to question D. This time we've got 2 equals x over 3 minus 6. Now again, we've got a 3 in a denominator, so this is a little bit annoying. So what we can do is multiply both sides of this equation by 3. So multiplying the left-hand side by 3, I'll end up with 3 times 2. Now to multiply the right-hand side, I need to multiply all of that by 3. So I've put it in brackets. What does this look like now? Well, on the left, I have 6. On the right, I'm going to have 3 lots of x divided by 3. Well, x divided by 3, but then being multiplied by 3 means I'm going to get an x from here. But don't forget, I also need to do 3 multiplied by this term, and I'm going to end up with minus 18 there. So, what we need to do next is add 18 to there, which means we have to add 18 on the left as well. Therefore, we end up with x on the right and 24 on the left. So x equals 24. That's our solution to D. Now we're on to the last question. Here we've got x over 4 plus 7 equals 20. Now in this case, I would want to either subtract 7 off both sides or multiply both sides by 4. Either way is fine. In this case, I'm actually going to subtract 7. This leaves me with x over 4 on the left and 13 on the right. Now, what I need to do is multiply the left-hand side by 4 and multiply the right-hand side by 4. X divided by 4 multiplied by 4 gives me just x. And 13 multiplied by 4 gives me 52. So x equals 52 is the solution we're looking for. Just to show you an alternative method, you could have done this. So starting off with the same thing, x over 4 plus 7 equals 20. You could have chosen to multiply both sides by 4. So multiplying all of this by 4 and then multiplying the right hand side by 4 means we'd end up with 4 lots of x divided by 4, which is just x, plus 4 lots of 7, which is 28. And that equals 20 times 4, which is just 80. And now we could subtract 28 off the left-hand side. That means we'd have to subtract 28 off the right-hand side. And that would leave me with x on the left and 52 on the right. So we get the same answer as we did before.